The office had celebrated another record-breaking quarter, but one man quietly slipped away before the music even started. While everyone laughed, danced, and toasted their success, he hurried toward the daycare center before it closed. No one noticed the exhaustion hidden behind his gentle smile, except one woman standing silently near the window. She had spent months wondering why the kindest employee in the company always refused invitations, avoided every office gathering, and politely turned down every woman who showed interest in him. That evening, unable to hold back her curiosity any longer, she finally asked the question that would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that love sometimes arrives when we least expect it, please like this video, share it with someone special, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Legacy. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch hearts around the world. Every morning before sunrise, Adrian Mercer woke up in a tiny apartment that overlooked a busy American neighborhood. His mornings never began with coffee or social media like most people his age. Instead, they began with making pancakes shaped like stars, packing a colorful lunchbox, brushing tangled little curls, and tying tiny sneakers before rushing his 6-year-old daughter, Hazel, to school. To the outside world, Adrian looked like an ordinary office employee. Only a handful of people knew he was raising his daughter completely alone. Years earlier, Adrian had lost his wife during childbirth complications that no amount of money or prayers could prevent. The day he held Hazel for the first time was also the day he said goodbye to the love of his life forever. Since then, every dream he once had for himself had quietly disappeared. Promotions, vacations, expensive cars, romantic evenings, and personal happiness were replaced with homework, hospital visits, birthday decorations, bedtime stories, and endless sacrifices. Yet he never complained. His daughter's smile became the reason he kept moving forward. At Harper Financial Group, Adrian was known as the dependable employee who never arrived late, never missed deadlines, and never asked for favors. He worked harder than almost everyone else, yet never sought attention. His coworkers often joked that he must secretly dislike women because he declined every invitation to dinner or weekend gatherings. Some even assumed he was arrogant. They never imagined that every evening, while they enjoyed restaurants or movies, Adrian was helping Hazel build blanket forts in their living room or reading fairy tales until she fell asleep in his arms. Watching him from afar was the company's young CEO, Vivienne Cross. Brilliant, elegant, and admired by everyone, Vivienne had inherited the business after her father's retirement and transformed it into one of the city's fastest-growing companies. Success followed her everywhere, yet loneliness quietly followed too. Most men were interested in her wealth, influence, or appearance. Very few ever treated her like an ordinary woman. Adrian was different. He spoke respectfully, worked honestly, and never tried to impress her. Ironically, that was exactly what caught her attention. For months she found herself creating excuses to speak with him. Sometimes it was about reports. Sometimes about new projects. Other times she simply wanted to hear his calm voice. Every conversation left her more curious. Why did such a caring, intelligent man build such high walls around his heart? The company organized another annual charity gala, encouraging employees to bring someone special. Vivienne personally invited Adrian, expecting him to finally accept. Instead, he smiled politely and declined once again. She watched disappointment settle inside herself in a way she had never experienced before. The following afternoon, she asked Adrian to meet her in her office. The city skyline stretched behind her enormous windows as sunlight filled the room. She intended to discuss business first, but the question she'd been holding inside escaped before she could stop it. She quietly asked why he never dated anyone. Adrian remained silent for several long seconds. His eyes wandered toward the family photo inside his wallet before returning to the floor. The sadness on his face was unlike anything Vivienne had ever witnessed. He slowly explained that every woman who had entered his life after his wife's death eventually left for the same reason. Some couldn't accept that his daughter would always come first. Others wanted children of their own and expected Hazel to be treated differently. A few simply grew tired of canceled dates whenever Hazel became sick or frightened during the night. He admitted something that shattered Vivienne's heart. He no longer searched for love because he couldn't risk bringing another person into Hazel's life only to watch them disappear again. His daughter had already lost one mother. He refused to let her lose another person she learned to love. If protecting Hazel meant living alone forever, he had already accepted that future. Vivienne felt tears gathering before she even realized it. She had expected excuses about being too busy or focusing on work. Instead, she found a father whose entire life revolved around protecting one little girl from experiencing more pain. That evening, long after Adrian left the office, Vivienne couldn't stop thinking about his words. A week later, she noticed Adrian arriving unusually late. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, and exhaustion covered his face. Instead of asking questions publicly, she quietly checked with human resources and learned Hazel had spent the previous night in the emergency room with severe pneumonia. Without announcing her involvement, Vivienne contacted the hospital anonymously and arranged for every medical bill to be covered through the company's Employee Family Emergency Fund. She also approved several weeks of paid leave without requiring Adrian to submit complicated paperwork. When Adrian discovered everything had already been handled, he couldn't understand who had helped him. He assumed it was simply one of the company's generous policies. During those difficult weeks, Vivienne found herself visiting the children's hospital, not to meet Adrian directly, but to deliver books, stuffed animals, and coloring supplies for every child on the floor. She never told anyone she was responsible. One afternoon Hazel noticed the elegant woman placing teddy bears beside children's beds. She smiled brightly and offered Vivienne one of her own drawings, a picture of a little house beneath a giant rainbow. Vivienne accepted it with watery eyes. From that day forward, an unexpected friendship slowly formed between them. Hazel adored Vivienne almost immediately, not because she was wealthy, but because she listened carefully to every imaginary story about magical forests, talking rabbits, and flying bicycles. For Adrian, however, every growing moment of closeness also brought fear. He appreciated Vivienne's kindness, but memories of past heartbreak refused to leave him. Every time happiness appeared within reach, life had found a way to take it away. He couldn't bear watching Hazel become attached if history repeated itself. Months passed. Vivienne never pressured him. She never demanded romance. She simply became a dependable presence. She attended Hazel's school art exhibition. She helped bake cookies during charity events. She remembered birthdays. She celebrated tiny achievements that most adults overlooked. Slowly, Adrian realized something extraordinary. Vivienne wasn't trying to replace Hazel's mother. She was simply choosing to love both of them exactly as they were. One rainy Saturday, Adrian's aging car finally broke down while driving home from the grocery store. With groceries soaked and Hazel shivering beneath a blanket, Vivienne unexpectedly appeared after recognizing them on the roadside. Instead of calling roadside assistance and leaving, she rolled up her sleeves, helped unload groceries, entertained Hazel with silly stories, and waited nearly 3 hours until the mechanic finished repairs. Watching a billionaire CEO sit on wet pavement making paper boats with his daughter quietly broke the last wall surrounding Adrian's heart. Still, fear remained stronger than hope. Winter arrived. Just days before Christmas, Hazel's teacher called Adrian into school. His daughter had written an assignment titled, "My Christmas Wish." The entire page contained only one sentence. "I don't want toys. I just want Daddy to stop looking sad." Adrian couldn't finish reading without crying. That night he sat alone after Hazel fell asleep and finally admitted the truth to himself. He had spent years protecting his daughter from possible heartbreak while unknowingly teaching her that happiness was something adults eventually gave up. The next morning, Adrian walked into Vivienne's office carrying the rainbow drawing she had kept framed beside her desk since the hospital visit. Without dramatic speeches or expensive gifts, he simply thanked her. He admitted she had already done something impossible. She hadn't made him believe in love again. She had made him believe his daughter deserved to grow up watching real happiness. Vivienne smiled through tears neither of them bothered hiding. Months later, their wedding wasn't held inside a luxury hotel or extravagant ballroom. Instead, it took place in a beautiful daytime botanical garden filled with sunlight, fresh flowers, children laughing, and families gathered together. Hazel proudly scattered flower petals before walking hand in hand with both of them. When the ceremony ended, Hazel hugged them both and whispered that her Christmas wish had finally come true. Some stories don't end because someone becomes rich. Some don't end because someone finds romance. The most beautiful endings happen when broken hearts discover that healing doesn't erase the past, it simply gives the future another chance. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs hope today, commenting below, and subscribing to Kindness Legacy. Your support allows these meaningful stories to reach more hearts across the world. Blue Heart's special request. Comment below. Every child deserves a happy parent. Because sometimes the greatest love story isn't between two adults at all. Sometimes it's the story of a father who sacrificed everything for his child, and a woman whose greatest act of love was choosing to protect that little family instead of changing it. And in the end, the question was never why Adrian wouldn't date. The real answer was that he had been waiting, without realizing it, for someone who would first fall in love with the little girl holding his hand before ever asking for his heart.